The Switch 2 has been building up a pretty solid library. Whether you picked one up at launch or just got one recently, there's actually a lot worth playing. Here are the top 10 best-selling games on the platform right now, broken down so you know what you're getting into before you spend your money. Splatoon Raiders is a Switch 2 exclusive that takes the series in a different direction. Instead of online matches, it's a single-player focused adventure where you play as a mechanic working alongside Deep Cut, the trio from Splatoon 3. You crash land on the Spiralite Islands and have to team up with Shiver, Fry, and Big Man to get back home, uncover the mystery of the islands, and grab as much loot as possible along the way. Each raid you go on earns you weapons and gear that you bring back to your hideout chip and use to upgrade your setup before heading out again. The whole thing follows a Monster Hunter-style loop: run missions, collect loot, upgrade, repeat. And it works well in the Splatoon universe. The story itself is pretty lighthearted. Don't expect anything heavy. There are some interesting mysteries about the islands and their connection to the Salmonids, and it builds toward a solid conclusion that gives Deep Cut more character development than they've had before.
So to recap, do not underestimate the Salmonids. Yikes, this is tougher than it looks.
Star Fox on Switch 2 is a remake of Star Fox 64, expanding on the original's level design, story, and gameplay, while introducing new character designs. The core structure stays intact. It's a rail shooter with branching paths based on your performance and decisions. But what makes this version interesting is how it reinterprets rather than just repackages. The story takes what were one-liners and builds them into actual character arcs. The whole campaign gets fully voice dialogue, an orchestral soundtrack, and a complete visual overhaul. Fox McCloud is still taking on Andross to protect the Lilat system, and your route changes based on the objectives you complete, so there's replay value in going back to find alternate paths. New to this version, you can hold the Joy-Con 2 like a mouse for cockpit aiming, or hand a controller to a second player to split pilot and gunner duties.
That was the easy part, Fox.
This is the complete Cyberpunk 2077 package on Switch 2, including the Phantom Liberty expansion and years of content updates. If you bounced off the game at launch in 2020 because of performance issues, that's not really a concern anymore. On Switch 2, the game runs at 1080p in both handheld and docked, with quality mode at 30 frames per second and performance mode uncapping to 40 frames per second. They've also added gyro aiming, which works really well for fine adjustments in gunplay, with a solid range of options for how sensitive it is and when it kicks in. The game drops you into Night City as Five, a mercenary trying to survive after a job gone wrong leaves a dead legend's consciousness stuck in your head. It's a story-heavy open-world RPG with a lot of build options and playstyles. For the most part, the frame rate holds up and the game stays consistently playable, with any dips rarely affecting gameplay in a meaningful way. Age of Imprisonment is the third Hyrule Warriors game, and it's built around the lore of Tears of the Kingdom, specifically the ancient imprisoning war between King Raru's alliance and Demon King Ganondorf. You play as Princess Zelda, fighting alongside familiar faces like Raru, the Sages, and new characters like the Korok Kalamo. Like any Warriors game, the core of it is cutting through hundreds of enemies on large battlefields. But this one makes creative use of Tears of the Kingdom's mechanics, with a solid roster of characters that are all fun to play. The side missions keep the pacing moving, and the map progression feels more structured than Age of Calamity. Similar to Age of Calamity, there's a timeline divergence from what you'd expect based on TOTK's memories, so don't go in expecting a strict prequel. It's its own thing. If you bounced off the previous Hyrule Warriors games, this is the most polished one in the series. Super Mario Party Jamboree originally came out on Switch 1, and the Switch 2 edition dropped on July 24, 2025, with visual upgrades, improved frame rate, camera play, game share support, and a new mode called Jamboree TV. The base game is still there, 7 boards, over 110 minigames, the classic roll dice, collect stars loop. Jamboree TV is a new mode exclusive to the Switch 2 version that casts you and your friends as contestants in a game show hosted by Toad, with minigames built around the Joy-Con 2's mouse controls, the system's built-in mic, and optional camera support that puts players' faces in the game when they win. There's also a coaster mode that plays like an on-rail shooter, and a Bowser Live mode that uses the mic and camera for controller-free minigames. The Jamboree TV editions are hit or miss. The mouse minigames are fun. Some of the other stuff feels like it's there to show off hardware features more than anything. Kirby Air Riders is a sequel to the GameCube's Kirby Air Ride, directed by Masahiro Sakurai. You pick a Rider Kirby, Meta Knight, King Dedede, Magolor, and a machine, and race or battle your way through different modes. Each machine handles differently, and riders have their own stats and specials, plus they can grab copy abilities from enemies to get an edge. The three main modes are Air Ride for standard racing, City Trial, which has you roaming the city of Skya collecting power-ups before a random final event, and Top Ride, which gives you a top-down perspective where the whole track is visible on screen. There's also Road Trip, a single-player story mode where you pick your path and work through challenges based on all three modes. Online supports up to 32 players in a paddock lobby where you queue up for matches across the different modes, with ranked play available.
Final lap! Fire!
Pokémon Legends ZA came out on both Switch and Switch 2, with the Switch 2 edition offering improved graphics and frame rates. The game is set in Lumio City, where an urban redevelopment plan is underway, with the goal of making it a place Pokémon and people can actually share. You choose from Chikorita, Tepig, or Totodile as your partner, and explore both the city streets and surrounding wild zones. It continues the Legends series' shift away from traditional, turn-based random encounters toward real-time action battles with dynamic encounters. The main quest has side stories that seem disconnected at first, but get woven back together convincingly by the end. It's been compared to a Persona-style structure, with an urban setting, strange events reshaping the world, and a group working together to take down threats others don't know about. There's also paid DLC, Mega Dimension, that adds a post-game story involving spatial distortions, Hoopa, and hyperspace Lumios.
You can catch Pokémon here. But they might be hostile. If you sense trouble...
Pokémon Pokopia. Your job is to collect resources, craft furniture, build homes, grow vegetables, and gradually attract different Pokémon to come live in your little paradise. The framework draws heavily from Dragon Quest Builders. As a ditto in the form of its missing trainer, you're restoring a withered world to make it appealing for Pokémon to return to, and the trainers who came with them. The Pokémon you meet can actually teach your Ditto their moves, things like Bulbasaur's Leafage for growing plants, or Squirtle's Water Gun for watering them, which you then use to interact with and shape the environment. It's been a hit across the board. Longtime Pokémon fans, cozy game players, it appeals to a wide audience and has the kind of daily session loop that keeps people coming back. An expansion pass is planned, with more content rolling out through 2026 and into 2027, including a new town. Donkey Kong Bananza is DK's first 3D platformer since Donkey Kong 64. The story starts simple. DK heads to Ingot Isle after hearing about golden bananas being mined there, only for Void Kong and his company to steal them and send DK falling deep underground. There, he meets a 13-year-old Pauline, and the two team up to reach the planet core, which supposedly grants wishes. The core mechanic is destruction. DK can smash through almost anything, carve tunnels, tear off chunks of terrain, and throw them. Pauline's singing triggers Bananza transformations, turning DK into different animal forms with unique abilities, though they're time-limited, so you have to manage them. The levels are underground biomes, ranging from ice worlds to lava lands, and the destructible environments mean you're constantly opening up new paths and secrets by just breaking things. It sold 4.52 million copies, making it the second best-selling Switch 2 game, and critics called it the console's killer app. Mario Kart World is the Switch 2 launch title that set the bar for everything after it. Instead of the traditional track setup, every course exists in one connected open world that players can also explore freely in free roam mode, with Grand Prix and Knockout Tours built on top of that same map. Knockout Tour is an elimination-style mode where you have to finish above the cutoff position to stay in. It's one of the best new additions. Online supports up to 24 racers, with 4-player split screen locally and local wireless for up to 8. While waiting in a lobby, you share a free roam session with other players, can see where they are on the map, and teleport to them. The roster added a lot of new playable characters, including enemies from across the series that have never been playable before. It sold over 15 million copies in its first year, making it by far the best-selling Switch 2 game.
By going off-road, you can explore new areas and routes. So drive wherever your heart takes you.
The Switch 2 library is in a pretty decent spot, and it's only going to get bigger from here. If any of these are on your list or you've already played them, drop it in the comments. And if you want more coverage on Switch 2 games, subscribing helps the channel out. See you in the next one.